Welcome back, trainers. So we're going to be taking a look at the Silph Arena's Cup for the month of October. That is going to be the Sinister Cup. So if you do enjoy this kind of PvP content, please give this video a big thumbs up. It does help me out a lot, and I'll continue to bring you more PvP videos. So this is going to be going down October, and it's very interesting. That logo does look awesome. So what are the types? We have Ghost, Psychic, Steel, and Fighting. But there is a catch. No dark types. That's right, that includes the dual typings, obviously. Mythical Pokemon, so you can rule out Deoxys, you can rule out Jirachi, and any other mythical that you wanted to use here, like possibly Mew. No Skarmory, specifically no Skarmory, and as well as no Hypno. So this is going to be a very interesting one. No longer do the ghosts have to run in fear from the dark. Now they can stand and fight up against the other types in this specific cup here. Very, very nice. So, with that said, I'm not going to be going over all of the Silph Arena's new rules that they have implemented. I'm just going to be focusing on the meta-relevant Pokemon, and then we're going to be taking... Right, so I will have a link in the description for Pvpoke, so you can check out the full list for yourself for the Sinister Cup for the month of October. Starting it off at the top here, we do have a Alolan Marowak, which is going to be pretty nice. I didn't personally use it myself in these practice rounds, nor did the friend of mine who actually I went up against, but I will be testing it out in the future. Hex for the quick move, Shadow Ball, and Bone Club for the charge moves. Now, Shadow Ball is going to be great going up against those Psychic and Ghost types, being super effective. Bone Club is going to be great to go up against those Steel types. So Marowak is looking pretty solid here. It does have to look out for the Ghost types, and it will be resisting the Fighting types pretty nicely there. Number 2, we do have Haunter. Now, I personally think Drifloon is going to be a little bit better, honestly. So Haunter, what's the nice thing about him? Well, if they use a fighting type, you're going to have that doubled up resistance being a ghost and poison type. But the thing is, Drifloon is going to be ghost and flying, so it has another bit of doubled up resistance there, and it kind of picking up the slack. More HP, and it's not as fragile. So if you did go up against a confusion user with Haunter, it's going to be dropping extremely quick. Yes, your Shadow Claw is going to be dishing out pretty good damage, and if they have no more shields and you get one of these through, so you have the Legacy Shadow Ball, it will more than likely take them out. But Drifloon can take the hits and charge up extremely fast as well. So if you do not have a Legacy Haunter and you still want to use it, I urge you probably to not pick that. Even if you had the Legacy, I'm sure it's fine in some situations, but for the most part, I don't know. There's going to be other options. Steelix coming in that number 3 spot with Dragon Tail, Crunch, and Earthquake. Fantastic with that Crunch going up against Ghosts as well as those Psychic types. Super effective, and with Dragon Tail it does charge fairly quick. Earthquake's going to be great to go up against those Steel types, as well as heavy hitting for those possible Fighting type Pokemon. Then you have Bastiodon. Don't worry, it's not going to dominate this cup too much here, because there's going to be things that can take it out pretty nicely, like the Steelix. Although Flamethrower is going to do a good amount of damage to your Steelix or whatever other Steel type you're using. Smackdown for the quick move, Stone Edge, and Flamethrower for the charge. And at an 8%, it's calling for Flash Cannon. Key matchups are going to be Alolan Marowak, Haunter, Gardevoir, Dustox, and Drifloon. Obviously, all the fighting types are going to wreck it. Right. Alright. Moving on to the number 4 spot, Drifloon. Now, I did power up my Shiny and evolve it, as well as purchasing that secondary move. Quite expensive to do so. 75,000 Stardust and 75 candies to get that secondary move on it. So yeah, but it's worth it for sure. And it's going to be even more worth it if you have one with PvP IVs. I went ahead and just went with my Shiny. So yeah, it is what it is. Hex for the quick move. Charge move, Shadow Ball, Ominous Wind. And then in Icy Wind's calling at a 1%, but you might as well just go with Shadow Ball and Ominous Wind there, getting that stab and doing good amount of damage to pretty much everything there. And then we have Cresselia. Oh my goodness, Cresselia. Psycho Cut and Confusion is calling for that Psycho Cut there. Future Sight and Moonblast, so pretty interesting choice. Haven't went up against it, so if you do have one of those, that secondary move is going to cost you 100,000 Stardust and 100 candies. A little bit steep, but it might be worth it in the end. But don't go and purchase it quite yet. I don't know. It's up to you. If you got it into the Great League, I mean, you might as well invest in that at this point. Metachan with Counter, of course. Power Up Punch, and then Psychic over Ice Punch. I think Ice Punch is going to be a little bit better personally. Say if you get stuck out there with a maybe Drifloon, you'll be able to hit it for super effective damage with Ice Punch, seeing that Drifloon is going to be a part flying type Pokemon. that's just me. Psychic's probably going to work fantastic as well. Say if you get stuck up against another fighting type Pokemon, you'll be able to hit him with Psychic. Very circumstantial, all right? As well as Hunters too, right? Being that part poison. Dustox, Faint Attack, Shadow Punch, and Fire Punch. Very interesting. Going to kind of speed it up here. Poliwrath, I did use this, but I do have a Legacy Mudshot here, all right? And it looks like Bubble is not quite as good. Obviously, you're not going to be gaining energy for your charge moves as quick, but it's not too far behind that Mudshot. Power Up Punch, Ice Punch, Hydro Pump, and then Dynamic Punch, calling for that Poliwrath. But if you're going to use it, Power Punch, Ice Punch, okay? You could switch it up and put Hydro Pump and come with a surprise. They might think you're just going to go for one of those smaller hitting moves. That you hit them with, you know, Hydro Pump, and they're going to be getting hurt there. Frostlass, Hex, all right, quick move. Charge move, Shadow Ball, and Avalanche. And then it also has Crunch. See, Frostlass has a fantastic charge move pool here, as you can see. Pretty good. Shadow Ball, super effective to those ghosts and those psychic types. Crunch, as well as the same typings. And then you have Avalanche there, which you can, you know, possibly do massive damage to a Drifloon or whatever else for neutral damage there. So, pretty good. I still don't have one of those. Bayonet, all right, Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, and Thunder. Gardevoir, Charm, Shadow Ball, and Secret Noise. What's this even going to be good against? Poliwrath, Medicham, Glade, Drifloon, and Hitmonchan. Okay. Noted. Claydol, Confusion, Earth Power, and Gyro Ball. Bronzong, I think, is a pretty solid option here. It is calling for Faint Attack over Confusion, which makes sense because you're going to be super effective to both Ghosts and Psychic type Pokemon. So I probably should change it up and try that out. I actually was using Confusion personally. Psyshock, Heavy Slam, and Bulldoze. I think maybe you want to try out Psyshock and Bulldoze, but you could mix it up to see what you can do there. Then you have Glade and Polion, very interesting. And now Mawile, what I've been waiting for, and this is where we're going to kind of stop. And you can actually check out the link in the description for the whole list yourself. I use this. The thing is crazy good. I've always wanted this to be relevant in a specific cup, and now it is finally here. There is things that can't stop it for sure, like Probopass and Toxicroak, as my friend did do, you will see here. So Bite on Mawile is absolutely nasty. It's going to cost you quite a bit to get it powered up because it does max out around the Great League level. So you're going to, yeah, spend a bit of Stardust. But I honestly have loved it every time I used it. Iron Head, Vice Grip, and Play Rough on the recommended charge moves. So Iron Head #1, Vice Grip, and then Play Rough. And obviously you want to go with Bite. And it's calling for a 22% on Astonish, but Bite's going to be horrible as far as energy gain for your charge moves, but it's almost like you don't even need anything else but Bite. You just go and rip through them. It's quite amazing. And then we have a decent amount of other Pokemon here. Let's go ahead and stop at our first Gen 5. I do believe, oh, there it is. Goluk. And it is calling for Mudshot, Shadow Punch, and Earth Power, and then Dynamic Punch as well. So this is pretty cool, guys. This is a very diverse list here. And since they implemented those rules where you can't use dark types, as well as the mythicals, no Skarmory and no Hypno. You know, Skarmory is obviously pretty good. Hypno is just nasty. If you have one of those Shadow Balls, even the elemental types, I personally even now have a Psyshock. So, but I can't use it, unfortunately. Now let's go ahead and hop into those battles and see what we have going on here. But really quick here, I want to give you a tip. The Game Press did tweet this out. It's going to be a search string that's going to allow you to pull up everything that's going to be legal and allowed to participate while excluding everything else that cannot. So this is very helpful if you don't really have a team set up and you're just trying to siphon through all of your Pokemon and pick something to use. This search string here is going to be quite helpful. I will have that in the comments pinned so you can just copy and paste it into Pokemon Go. Now going into these battles here, we're going to be going up against my friend Dark Paladin. Now he did do many practice rounds with me going the World Championships, which I really am grateful for all those practice rounds. So starting it off with Mawile, he's going in there with the Bronzong, switching into Drifloon. And I do have Bite, so it is going to be still super effective to that Drifloon here. And keep in mind, these are going to be our very first Sinister Cup battles, so complete practice rounds just to give you a view of what it looks like. And I'll be bringing you more in the future. So we do take that Drifloon down there. Let's see what he's going to bring in next here. So Mawile looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and go for that Iron Head. onto that Bastiodon. Does a good amount of damage, as you can see here, but it does take a while to get to the Iron Head, seeing that I do have Bite. So I do go in with Poliwrath, and he's going to be switching back into the Bronzong with that super effective Confusion. But my answer for the switch is Haunter, which is going to be weak to Confusion, and down I go. As soon as I'm done with this, in comes Poliwrath, and it's not looking too hot for me here. Obviously, I'm going to have to shield that up, and we're just going to hit it with the Dynamic Punch. I don't know what's up with me in this round, but I kept hitting the Dynamic Punches with only a Great. And I actually do take this win barely here. Let's see. And I get him down with Mud Shots. Alright, so in comes the Bastiodon. Stone Edge almost taking me out. I'm able to get to a Dynamic Punch. And yet again, another Great. Wow, that's, yeah, yuck. But we are able to get that Dynamic Punch off and take down the Bastiodon. So these are all going to be great games going into the next round. Starting it off with Steelix, he's going in with Drift Bloom. Now, I thought I was in a comfortable position, but Drift Bloom still hurts pretty significantly with those ghost moves to Steelix. So I do have Crunch, which can be super effective. So that's good. And we're letting that Shadow Ball go through. Shadow Ball is a very strong move, but yeah, that one, you know, took off quite a bit of health on the Steelix here. So I am still comfortable though, connecting that Crunch. Both of us not using a shield, but I'm using my first one here. So I can get off this Crunch onto that Drift Bloom. He lets it go through. In comes the Poliwrath. Now, this is a horrible situation. I'm thinking to myself, I might as well just let him fake me down so I can have my switch priority still. And I do so, but at this point, he has a bunch of energy charged up, as well as an Ice Punch on there, which Drift Bloom is going to be weak against, as you can see. He's switching into Magneton. He was more prepared for my team this time, and that is also going to be super effective towards me, taking me out in one shot there. In comes my Poliwrath, not in a good position. Yet again, Water type, weak to electric, and we're going to take the loss here. Able to get off one more Desperation Dynamic Punch, Power Up Punch, sorry, and in comes this Poliwrath and finishes me off. Alright, so moving on to the next match here. Starting it off with Mawile, who's going in with Drift Bloom. Great position here. He's switching right away. Now, I did pick the wrong Slowbro. See, now this is what I was talking about. This only has Water Pulse. The one I use has Ice Beam and Water Pulse, but at least it has Confusion, so we're safe in that regard. We can finish off the Poliwrath with the Confusions without using any of that energy that we do have on our charge moves here. So we're not going to use a shield, let it go through, and we're just going to spam whatever comes in. Doesn't matter what it is with that Water Pulse there, because we are still locked in here, and there'd be no point in just continuing on with just Confusions. So at this point, if I had Ice Beam, I would be able to do a lot of damage, but he does shield it up anyways. So it really doesn't make too much of a difference, although you can get to Ice Beam quicker, so I may have had 2 at this point. So I would have maybe burned 2 shields. In comes the Mawile for super effective bite damage. We're going to be shielding this up. We want it to survive as long as possible. Seeing that we still did have 2 shields, in comes the Magneton, switching right away into Hitmonchan. I came prepared this time. So we do have Counter and Power Up Punch, as well as Thunder Punch. I'm not too sure if I'm going to switch Thunder Punch or if I'm going to continue to use Hitmonchan. Still need to practice. And taking him out there, he did have a shield on his end still. And then moving into the next match, starting off with Bronzong, he's going with Bastion. Very curious battle here. So we were both pretty brave in not shielding anything up. So I'd still go for the kill shot without shield baiting. Bulldoze there does good amount of damage, and he's going to go for Flamethrower here. And I am not going to shield it either. So, all right, we're looking at about the same amount of health here. He got me down to the red first. So I do go for the Psyshock, thinking he might use his shield to keep it alive. But he does not budge, and he doesn't use his shield. So personally for me, I'm going to let this go down here and Hitmontop and Misdrevious. I did not mean to pick Misdrevious. I meant to pick Mawile, unfortunately. But the Hitmontop has counter and close combat. Not exactly what I want. I need that secondary move, but I just wanted to test it out. So we're able to get this off here onto the Xatu, which is super effective damage, but he does shield it up. And we're going to be shielding the super effective back. In comes the Poliwrath. I have to go for the Ghost move because Dark is not very effective to fighting. All right, so it's pretty much a loss at this point. This team was skewered from the get-go. That Hitmontop was absolutely useless for me. It's not a horrible option. It is pretty bulky. I just do not have the correct charge moves on it. I'm going to need Stone Edge as well. Not that it really would have helped me too much in this specific situation. But yeah, so Hitmontop Pretty interesting Pokemon, but unfortunately falling short for this battle here. Moving on to the next one. Starting off with Steelix, he's going in with Toxicroak. He's not playing any more games. I do believe this is the last round. He's like, I am not going to lose to that Mawile again, and he is set. In comes my Slowbro here, the correct one this time, so I do have the Ice Beam at least on my side. And we're going to go ahead and go for that, assuming he's going to shield now, and he does, keeping that Drift Bloom safe. And he does not want this Slowbro to survive with a Toxicroak in the back, because it's game over for Toxicroak if it does. Oh, and I do have Psychic on this one as well. Interesting. Okay. So we have no more shields, and he is able to get off a charge move with a sliver of health. And at this point, I'm like, well, I can go Mawile, but he's just going to come Toxicroak. And if I go Steelix, he's going to come Toxicroak. I'm walled at this point, pretty much. I need something with Psychic or Ground. But then in comes the Probopass for the switch up here. So what are we going to do? I'm going to let this go through. We need to preserve that shield. And I'm trying to switch right when he uses his charge move, but he doesn't fall for it. He was waiting for that switch. In comes the Toxicroak, and it's just going to get wrecked by that Toxicroak. The Steelix here, we're going to go for the Crunch just because I need to burn that shield, in which I did perfect. And I'm barely able to get to another Crunch. It's not very effective, but it's still going to be able to take him out. In comes the Probopass, but the Steelix doesn't have enough health at this point to do anything really, or enough energy. And then the Mawile, it's going to be hitting pretty hard with that Iron Head, but not hard enough, as you're going to see here, falling a little bit short. And I will be losing this match as well. So those are some great battles, and I hope you enjoyed those practice rounds. Alrighty, trainers, so if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I will kind of be making PvP content along the way here, so just keep an eye out for that. And if you're wondering, well, what about your Kingdom Cup battle? You never uploaded that. If you do follow me on Twitter, I was asking whether or not I should upload it. Yes, I did skip it out, and guess what? I'll throw in a bonus round for you, which is going to be the last two battles of my Kingdom Cup, going up against an ace trainer. So with that said, trainers, thank you for watching, and I'll be catching you all next time. Take care.